What's up everybody and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna take a look at the 2025 Hyundai Elantra N-Line and the 2025 Hyundai Elantra N. Now these cars have a $5,000 price difference. We're at $30,800, $35,800. Which one is the better car? Is it worth $5 grand to get the big boy? Big shout out to Flo Hyundai of Statesville for providing these two cars for today's video. Check their website, links down below. Moving on to the performance information, the Hyundai Elantra N-Line is going to utilize a 1.6 liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine with 201 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. This is front-wheel drive, only available with a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. Curb weight is around 3,000 pounds, and 0 to 60 time is in the low 7-second range. For the Hyundai Elantra N, this one's going to feature a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged motor with 276 horsepower and 289 pound-feet of torque. This one is front-wheel drive with a limited slip differential. You can either get the 8-speed automatic dual clutch or a 6-speed manual. 0 to 60 time is going to be closer to 5 seconds on these cars. This one's curb weight is also going to be close to 3,300 pounds. Now, as far as styling goes, both of these cars are, of course, on the same platform, which is the Elantra sedan. That is the only way to get it. You got a nice design up in front on the N-Line with the black accents, a little bit of silver as well. Got the N-Line badge, and then a large opening to provide cooling to the radiator as well as the intercooler. On the N, it is very similar. You just have the satin black, a little bit more bold, larger, lower splitter, and then nice openings for the intercooler as well as the radiators. You're also going to get a nice set of 18-inch wheels on the N, finished in a split 5-spoke. Along with the upgraded brakes, you're going to get a 245 wide tire on the N, and these are Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss. And then on the N-Line, of course, simple brakes with a 235 wide tire, and they're just a more basic hand-cooked tire. And then a nice little side skirt on the side. Of course, you're going to see all the same sharp lines. For the back, they have the same tail lights. However, the N-Line is going to get more silver accents, dual exhaust on the one side, and then you have a small lip spoiler for the trunk. Over on the Hyundai Elantra N, it is of course more aggressive. So you're gonna get a nice pedestal spoiler. Everything is blacked out, got more of the red accents, satin black on the diffuser, and then a really cool dual exhaust. So honestly, both styles make a lot of sense. It's a bit more aggressive and sporty on the N. Now for the interior on the Elantra N, as you can tell, you got some nice red stitching throughout it, giving it a sporty look. You can see nice texture on the door. This has a fabric seat with a nice synthetic leather, very sporty looking. You can see the N logo as well, more of the contrast stitching. Just your basic multimedia screen as you would expect. For the gauge cluster, you have drive modes over here. It will change a little bit, which is a cool touch for the 3 different drive modes. And then of course you can scroll through the center as expected. You're gonna get paddle shifters for the automatics in both cars. And of course on the N, you'll have a very similar shifter as well. Got the logo to it. But overall, pretty nice interior with a small sporty touch. And then for the Elantra N, of course, this is going to be a bit more sporty. We have our rev matching icon. You also have different drive mode selections. You can go into the normal, sport, as well as eco. However, this one, you can toggle the N icon and get a really cool display with a massive tack. And then you can scroll on the right side and see lots of vitals throughout the car. Under the normal screen, you still have all the basics, but you do get extra vitals you can monitor. And then, of course, everything else that the other Elantra had. For the multimedia screen, everything else is the same. However, we have the N mode that you can go into and see a lot of really cool displays. You can see the tack, more things like that, temperatures. You can adjust all sorts of different driving parameters with the suspension, steering, engine, exhaust. Everything else is the same, as you can tell, heated seats, wireless charging, 6-speed manual only available in the N. And then for the interior materials, we have some Alcantara on the door panels and then a much more aggressive bucket style seat with leather and Alcantara. You got the N logo up above, blue stitching. So definitely a nice step up, of course, with some extra materials and extra sporty displays. Now, since these are both the exact same car, they're gonna have 14 cubic feet of cargo volume for the trunks. You're gonna have an inflator kit underneath the floor as well. In the N-Line, once again, you can see the nice materials for this, the cloth as well as the leather material. This one is going to give you an armrest and cup holders in the center, which is a good touch. And then you can pull down the seats independently. So you have both sides that will pop downwards, which is a good touch. And then, as you can tell, a pretty large opening into the trunk. Now for the N, this one's going to have a chassis brace mounted in the seats. And then the seat back is actually all one piece, and there is no armrest whatsoever. You're gonna have the nicer materials as expected, and then the whole thing comes down as one. And of course, you're gonna have a little bit limited space given this chassis brace is in a fixed position. Legroom is actually a little bit more given these performance seats have thinner backs, but overall the N-Line does give you a little bit more creature comforts. So let's get my bearings first with the Elantra N. Let's see what this car at under $36,000 has to offer. So I'm in the full-on custom drive modes and everything. Let's see. You have nice smooth power delivery. The manual feels really good to go through the gears. It's got a good notchy feeling without being too much like a race car, and it doesn't feel like an economy car either. So good balance there. The clutch pedal has good weight. The steering is nice and tight. And the suspension is really smooth. This feels like a refined sporty sedan. It's really a nice car to drive, honestly. It feels really good just cruising through these back roads. Power delivery is nice and smooth. Doesn't blow your socks off as far as the acceleration. Obviously, I'm not redlining it being a brand new car, but you can definitely tell it's got a good amount of power that'll put you back in your seat. Yeah, it definitely carries its weight really well. No complaints with power. Really smooth, really fun to just cruise around the twisty turns with. Steering gets significantly heavier in the N mode. And then for the turning circle, I do feel like it's a little large for being a small car. So just one thing to notice. Little pops on the exhaust. Yeah, it's a good balance. Again, it's not too fast of a car where you're gonna get into trouble, but it's certainly not a slow car to where you're gonna be bored with it or not be able to enjoy the power band. So for a performance car, being Hyundai's top of the line, basically performance car, I guess if you really want to think about it, this is their top level sports car. You know, it seems to have a really good blend. Of course, with an automatic, be a bit more dailyable, which is a great touch. I like sitting in the interior, and while they're not like the most aggressive seats out there, they're gonna hold you in nicely. The Alcantara feels great. It's gonna give you good grip to just be confidently sitting in here, going around turns. You're not gonna be moving around at all. So I think as a performance car goes on a budget, this seems to have a really good blend of everything. The rev matching works great. The different drive modes honestly change the character of this car too. It's a fun car, honestly. It has a lot going for it. Carries its weight really well. It's not too obnoxiously loud. If you are on a quiet road like this, really smooth road, it's a refined feeling car. It definitely is a good place to be. And then if I tone everything back down into eco mode, of course, everything just kind of relaxes a little bit. So it seems like if you want a daily driver along with something that can be a fun toy to hit some autocrosses with, the mountains, just a fun car to rip around with, this kind of can do it all. It's a really good blend, and I don't see really any sacrifices. It's not too backbreaking of a car to where you don't want to daily it. This would be absolutely fine. This is a great daily driver. You can do a lot with it, no complaints. So on to the N-Line now, toning it down into this car. It is worth mentioning this has power controls on the seats as well as a sunroof, so you might get a few more luxury features in this car over the true N. But driving this now in just the normal mode, it is definitely a more comfortable car. These seats are very padded, obviously easier to get into a nice position. Really comfortable, normal car. This is a good point A to point B car, and just a good economy car to get good gas mileage and cruise. Obviously, if you're into the performance, you only have the dual clutch, which is still a cool transmission, and I'm sure this transmission, or the 8-speed I guess, in the end is probably pretty sweet, giving you a little bit more precise control. I do like the fun factor with a stick shift. But normal driving, you can definitely tell this car is toned down. It's more comfortable, a bit more forgiving. There's no variable suspension or anything fancy like that. The differential, the exhaust sounds, all that stuff you're not really able to adjust in this one. Now, with that said, if I go ahead and bump us into sport mode, instantly I can feel the transmission downshift. It's a little bit more aggressive, and the throttle tuning is a little bit more quick as well. So a little bit punchier feeling, I would say. If we go into the manual mode, this engine definitely doesn't quite feel as eager. We're gonna get on the fun roads in a second, but it does feel like there's a little bit of delay when you first initially push it. So far the N definitely has a big step up in that. And then getting onto the fun roads, I do like the transmission though. It gives you a little bit snappy of a gear change, which feels like a performance car, so it has that little feeling to it. And then the brakes, while they're nothing fancy, they seem to do fine when you hit them. The steering feel is pretty good, but there is a lot of body roll. When you're swaying this left to right, you can definitely feel this is kind of a normal car at the end of the day. You can go quickly around the turns, but it starts to almost scare you a little bit after a second, because then the body roll starts kicking in and you feel like you're not in the same control like you were in the N. So there is definitely a massive performance difference between the two cars. This is basically a really nice economy car with a sporty touch. It looks cool. You know, it's got a little bit better power than a basic economy car, but there's not really any handling characteristics in this to make it something you want to rip through the mountains, take to a track or an autocross. Also, with less power, I am getting some torque steer in this going around the turn. You can kind of feel it turning to the right a little bit as you do hit the boost. So certainly not on the same level whatsoever. For a $5,000 difference, that is kind of crazy. Really, this car is for the person who's not that interested in performance. The person buying this is never going to do performance driving. They want a car that has a sporty touch to it and is quick enough to get out of its own way. So that's kind of what I'm getting at with the N-Line. Little torque steer there. Yeah, so taking that turn, it definitely starts feeling like it's tipping just because it doesn't have a performance suspension. So not a bad way to go. Again, if you're just wanting an economy car that's a little bit cooler than just basic transportation, that's where this car comes into play, right around the 30 grand mark, you know, just a little bit over that. You know, not crazy out of this world as far as price point goes. So ending thoughts with the Elantra N-Line versus the Elantra N. Personally, I think the N is by far worth 5 grand more. Definitely worth getting. I think, to be honest, if you're interested in the N-Line and you are a performance person, just take a little bit extra time, save up the extra money, and get the N. It is a lot better. It's got more power, way more handling. It's got a more sporty interior and exterior. It's very well worth the upgrade in price, and honestly, it's a bargain in comparison. Now, if you're looking at the N-Line and you're not into performance, you're just looking for a nice, normal economy car, point A to point B, with enough power to get out of its own way, great option, great way to go. But if you're looking at buying that thinking, I'm gonna save 5 grand, get the N-Line, and maybe do some mods over the next year or so with your ownership, I would say don't do that. Just get this car to begin with, because you do a tune, you know, intake exhaust on that, you're gonna end up spending 3 grand anyways, and you're voiding your awesome 100,000 mile warranty, and you're still not gonna have the performance that this car offers with the handling and the style inside and out. So Hyundai's almost priced them too close, to be honest, to where, as a performance guy, I don't know why you wouldn't just get this. This is a heck of a car for only 5 grand more. Now, I recently made the comparison with the Civic Type R alongside the Civic Si. Those had a $15,000 price difference. Those cars are drastically different buyers due to the price range, as well as the cars are so drastically different. These cars are so close in price range. If you can afford $31,000, I think you can easily afford a couple bucks more getting into that one. It'd be like 50 bucks more a month. So for me, I think that is a heck of a bargain of what it has to offer. And really, it's comparing a normal car with a sporty touch versus a very performance-focused, affordable sedan. So those are my thoughts, Elantra N versus the Elantra N-Line. Big shout out once again to Flo Hyundai of Statesville for providing both cars for today's video. Check their website, links down below, and comment below, what do you guys think of these two cars? That is one heck of an upgrade for not much more. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content, and I'll see you all in the next video.